Hello, my name is Jeff Hayjick, and I am the founder of Valaction Continuous Improvement. The video you are about to watch comes from Valaction's Managing with Metrics DVD, which is available for purchase at www.valaction.com. That's www.valaction.com. Welcome to Valaction Continuous Improvement's presentation on how to use metrics to manage your operation. My name is Jeff Hayjick, and I am the owner and founder of Valaction. I am also the author of the book, What Do You Mean I Gotta Be Lean? This presentation comes from our Lean training system. At Valaction, we take an a la carte approach to continuous improvement education. Each module covers one specific topic and consists of several components to help you get the most out of your training effort. Select just the materials you need to achieve your goals. Let's take a moment now to talk about what you should take away from this presentation. First of all, we want you to learn the benefits that using metrics can bring to your management style. We also want you to learn how to determine which metrics to use. And of course, a metric would not be effective unless it had a goal associated with it. We'll talk about how to go about gathering the information you need to get the most out of your metrics. And finally, we'll talk about how to use metrics to make improvements in your operation. Let's start off by defining what a metric actually is. In a nutshell, it is a standard measurement that you use to gauge performance, and that performance can be either of a process or of an organization. Imagine trying to drive your car without the gauges on your dashboard. You could probably do it, but it would be a challenge. And there's also a good chance that you'd run into problems. For example, without a speedometer, you'd be likely to get speeding tickets. What the gauges let you do is recognize abnormal conditions and make adjustments when things aren't going as planned. Now, in your business, your metrics will probably be logged over time, but they serve the same purpose. They let you know how you're doing. Metrics have to be more than just a number, though. They have to be associated with an expectation. Think back to the dashboard on your car. Seeing 3,000 on an RPM gauge doesn't mean anything unless you have an expectation of where it should be. If you're cruising down the highway, it might be your optimum range, but if you're sitting at a stoplight, it could indicate a problem. The same principles apply when you're using metrics to manage an operation. For example, productivity of 7.1 units per labor hour might be good if you'd been averaging 6, and it might be poor if you'd been averaging 10. You have to know where it should be. Now, in most cases, this expectation is a little bit higher than your current performance. Typically, companies are always striving to get better. And this chart shows that. The A indicates actual performance, and the T indicates your target performance. The target will likely be a little higher than your actual. But from your current state, there's 3 potential future states. In the first state, your actual performance starts to slip. And this is what we commonly call a problem. Having good metrics in place lets you identify this situation early so you can immediately make an effective countermeasure. Nipping problems in the bud often dramatically reduces their cost. In the second state, your actual performance is static, but the target rises. This is normally done to capitalize on some sort of opportunity. For example, the sales team may have been doing some data mining and realized that the customers that received their products the fastest tended to order more. That would indicate that a faster delivery time would lead to higher sales. Discoveries such as these often drive more aggressive targets. The third future state is the status quo. Now, that doesn't mean that your actual and your target are the same. It just means that both are moving along as expected. But even in the status quo, you can't get complacent, and that's because the competition isn't. There's a good chance their performance is actually increasing. And in today's cutthroat business environment, that's the same as your performance dropping. But regardless of which of these future states you're facing, there really is only one reason to actually use a metric. And that is to highlight specific improvement opportunities. It's easy to know that you have to get better. It's much harder to know specifically where you need to improve. I'd like you to keep a few things in mind as we continue talking about metrics. The first is that to make an improvement on a process, you have to deeply understand it. And that leads into the second point here. Metrics drive a high level of process scrutiny. When you see something changing in a metric, it's hard not to dive in and look why it's happening. And you may notice that the common link in these first two insights is that they both consume resources. Investigations take time. If you put a metric in place, make sure that it actually measures a true need. Insignificant metrics dilute the value of measuring your operation. Getting the most out of your metrics requires understanding that not all metrics are created equal. Most people think of metrics as measuring the output of a process. Those are known as results metrics, but there's also something called a process metric. Now, if you think of how a result actually comes to pass, there's normally many steps in a process to get to that result. So if results metrics measure at the end of a process, it's obvious that process metrics measure somewhere earlier. Process metrics focus on the activities that lead to the results. A good measurement plan will include both process and results metrics. Let's take a look at how they compare. The biggest difference between the two is that process metrics measure how we are doing right now. Results metrics look at how we did in the past. And this difference in the timing plays a big role in how we use the metrics. Process metrics are great for taking immediate action. Results metrics are more focused on reflection. And that reflection is very useful when you're developing strategy. But it's not as helpful when you're trying to find the root causes of a problem. To get those, you need to have a better understanding of the process that's causing your issue. One thing that is probably clear to you is that process metrics are much more useful at the front line. Frontline leaders and their teams tend to be very focused on production. They want to make sure they get their work done for the day. Process metrics help them do that. And one of the big reasons it's so helpful for them is that process metrics operate on a very short cycle. In some cases, they can provide near real-time information. That fast pace of information is very useful when doing the plan, do, check, act cycle of problem solving. Let's take a look at how process metrics and results metrics work in real life. There are two common measurements that people use to evaluate their fitness. The first is that they might measure their weight. And the second is that they count calories. Now, as popular as measuring weight is, the problem is that it's hard to act upon that information. Doctors like it because it helps evaluate future risk. But for the typical person trying to lose weight, looking at a scale tells you how you did. It doesn't tell you right now that you're doing something right or wrong. Counting calories, on the other hand, lets you take immediate action. Imagine that it is the middle of the day and you realize you've had too many calories. There is still time to adjust. You could have a light dinner or eliminate an evening snack and get back on track. So in this situation, what it really comes down to is the results metric tells you whether your plan was effective. The process metric tells you whether you're sticking to your plan. So let's talk about some actual metrics you might see in your workplace. A common results metric is a customer satisfaction score. Now that score comes from a variety of activities that a frontline team performs. Answering the phone is one of those activities. The average time it takes to answer that phone might be something that matters to the customer. Eventually, that will impact the customer satisfaction score. But if the employees had to wait until the end of the month to see their customer satisfaction scores, there's a good chance that changes in their hold time would have gone unnoticed. Similarly, these other results metrics each have process metrics that are associated with it. Again, each of these process metrics are things that you can make immediate adjustments to. So if you see something changing, you can take action. The results metrics, while they show how effective the organization is, again, they come after the fact and they're not closely tied to an activity. it can be a challenge to figure out what to do to fix things. The video you just watched came from the Managing with Metrics DVD, one of the many modules in our Lean training system. You can purchase it at the link on the screen. You can also register for free at www.valaction.com to download several forms you can use to improve your operation. These include a policy deployment matrix, KPI bowler, standard work forms, and a variety of Kaizen tools. Again, thanks for watching and best wishes on your Lean journey.